magic and all this stuff. And so, I kind of sat down and wrote out the rules of the world, the history, and all this other stuff. And then I had to find a writer. But I wanted to find a writer that studied the classics, but also was an elite athlete. And those two, they generally do not mix. So I'm scouring the internet trying to find the right writer. And so I found Ivy, and I started reading all of her previous books and stuff. And then I reached out to her and said, "Are you interested?" And she came down to the office and we talked. And she asked me like a bazillion questions about the world that I had absolutely no answers for.
Wait. I have to stop you right there though. So, did you just pick up the phone and call her one day? And what was that like?
Surprising. Also, I lived in Los Angeles, which made the collaboration easier than if I'd been in New York or something. Someone had emailed me and said, Kobe's gonna call you tomorrow morning, and I thought, that can't be right, But I just gave this person my phone number, and I was like, maybe a big scam artist is gonna call me, but he called at 9 a.m. on the dot, and it was clearly him, and he said exactly what he just told you. He was looking for an ex-professional athlete who wrote novels and studied or had a degree in classics, and I was like, you found the only one. And it was, it sounds a little crazier than it is. I think I've been waiting my whole life to write about sports and classics, and I just didn't really know how to do that in my own work. It was like a huge relief, There was finally this other person in the world who wanted to combine these two interests. So yeah.
Perfect. So Kobe, you call her up, you say, "I've got all these crazy ideas." And so then what happens next?
Well, then it comes time to actually doing the real work, which is like cracking the story. And so, this story was the first story that we've come up with in the world. And it took us the longest to crack, but it's also the story that has the longest tail. And so you're really following Prisha and Roby's growth for a long period of time. So it involved a lot of outlining and figuring out. And so, it was like a long time of texting back and forth.
So you guys really collaborated, on all of the plot, the characters, the setting.
Everything. I think people probably assume that one person does one thing, the other does the other. But we really came up with the story, every single detail of it together. And I think the hardest thing was, Kobe had this whole world and worldview in mind of stories he wanted to tell. But there's so many ways to do that, and we had to run a lot of stories into dead ends before we realized that didn't satisfy this universal plot of struggle and success and suffering and overcoming that, and also, it had to be a fantasy adventure, which was oh, there's the sports part, we got that. Oh, there's the fantasy part, we got that. What's this marriage of these two ideas?
So were there any ideas that you just had to say, "I'm sorry, I just gotta put my foot down, we can't do that, that's too wild"? Or did you guys try to work them all in?
Yeah, there was one where at the beginning it was there was kind of a system within the world where there was it was really competitive culture, and you have certain levels that you have to hit in order to remain in that country. And those that did not meet that were exiled to this particular island, and the story kind of goes from there and all this kind of crazy stuff. She goes, "How big is the island?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." It's like, "Has this been going on for a long time?" I said, "Well, yeah, I imagine so." Well, how many kids are there, and how many people are there? Do they just kill them off eventually, or what's going on? I said, "Yeah, I don't know." She's like, "You probably shouldn't do that idea." I said, "Yeah, you're probably right."
Now I kind of like it.
Maybe that'll appear.
I was like, that's a great idea. Why did we do that? Because then I thought there was that guy who was going to go to the island and get him, bring him back. Team of Orphos. They were called Orphos.
Orphos, that's right. Orphos.
So stay tuned. That might appear later in the series. We never know.
Not in this book.
Not this one. Well, it'll be a whole new series.
So your book that just came out, Epica, that is the first book, Ivy, that you wrote in collaboration with Kobe. But you guys have been working on this for a while, correct? Tell us about that.
I started in my last year of playing. So while playing my final season, I was also kind of plotting out all these things. And then in the summer, we really dove in and started really building our sleeves to get the work. But it's been a process.
And I think one of the things that we had to come to terms with at the beginning was Kobe had so many ideas. And you know, when I heard the phrase Game of Thrones for children, I started to have a full-blown panic attack because I mean, that's a long book. I was like, please find some other writers to write those books. Which is what he did, because I mean, sports are so
True.